First of all, just introduce yourself, please.
Okay, I'm Margaret Davidson and I'm the leader of Highland Council.
What's your assessment of the situation in the Highland Council area regarding universal credit?
We're doing our level best to help people, but it gets harder and harder and harder, and now the problems that we were seeing around Inverness, where we ran the pilot with the DWP, are now spreading across the Highlands. So they're impacting on every community we have. But they're also impacting on the whole of the rest of the country now. And that's why I believe government really will have to stop and listen.
You spoke about the fragility, the tightrope that people walk, and in terms of being effectively a crisis away from universal credit. Perhaps you could explain that in a little more detail.
Okay. I think you find that society's divided into people who've needed to go and help themselves by claiming benefits. There's lots of people who are ashamed to claim benefits. They still feel that it's a humiliation, which it isn't. It's there for a particular reason. We should all take care of the more vulnerable in our society when they need it. And what I was trying to get over was that don't think it's somebody poor over there or somebody feckless over there. Not at all. That there's a very thin curtain between all of us and the impact of universal credit. And if you're divorced, especially if you're a woman, you're poorer. You become ill, you're poorer. If you lose your home, you're poorer. If you've got a disability, you're poorer. All of these things can happen to anyone or to someone else in your family. And therefore, I just feel that no one should actually underestimate how close you could be to having to deal with this system. And at the moment, this system is seriously letting down too many people because of the way it's being administered.
One of the key problems seems to be rent arrears, and obviously local authorities have housing. Is there anything you can do as a council to help people in this type of situation?
Yeah, we're looking at that all the time, and it's about getting the balance between those thousands and thousands of our tenants who pay their rent and people who can't, and trying to keep the balance right. What we are doing is we've been pretty good at keeping the rent down. It did go up last year, but I think it was 1%. We've actually been quite good at keeping it below inflation for the last few years. We're also, people who present as homeless, we're trying increasingly to use our own housing stock to house them and to get them straight into a house, if you like. But what that is meaning is that it just means we've got a much smaller pool for the 7,500 people who are on our housing waiting list, and that it's very hard to tell them that they've got to wait another year, maybe two, before they might get a house, because we've had to house more homeless people. And I just feel that that doesn't get rid of housing debt, but it reduces it, because private sector rents are going up inexorably at the moment, and there's less and less availability of it. It's really, really difficult for people. So, you've got universal credit, and there's a perfect storm going on over here. Actually, housing itself is building up into a real hurricane too.
I guess these days in local authority life, when you do, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially, in the old phrase.
There is a large element of that, which is why many local authorities, our own included, we're actually completely redesigning how we do business. We have to, and we have to shrink as much as we can and still manage to deliver the frontline service. It's about prioritisation, and it's about really looking for more for less all the time, and that's a hard message for people, and we have to be very mindful of the fact that people's pay has not hardly moved up for some years, and it is a tough old world out there just now.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.